Unplugged. I'm excited. We've only got 2 authors this week. We have 3 releases, but 2 authors joining us. So we're going to have plenty of time to talk about all kinds of things. So I can't wait. We've got Mary Lancaster and Peri Maxwell with us this week. Ladies, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Hi.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to have a chance to kind of do a deep dive into the books in the series, because we've got Mary's One Night in Blackhaven series, and this is book 5. It's the poet, not just critic, stern critic.
Yes, she doesn't mince her words.
not just the critic. Can you tell us a little bit about this? I love the setup for the series. So if you can tell us a little bit about both, that would be great.
Okay, well, the whole series is about this same one night in Blackhaven, where this whole family of adult siblings meets the love of their life. Only they don't all know it at the time. They're being manipulated by their little brother and sister, but they go so they all go to the ball. So this one's about Cornelius, who acts as his brother's land steward because he's been trained in it, and he works hard and he's really good at it. He always seems a very serious kind of bloke and very steady, and just goes out, works all the time, comes home, gets up, works all the time. But in fact, he has a secret that nobody in his family knows. The only person who knows is this girl he ran into in a bookshop once. And the girl was so flabbergasted to meet this famous poet that she loved, that words kept coming out of her mouth. I don't know if you've ever done this, but you keep saying the wrong thing, and she kept doing it. And so he ended up thinking, well, thank God I never have to see her again. So guess who he runs into at the Blackhaven Ball? It's this girl, and she turns out not just to be any old girl, but she's the local earl's sister. And so he has to stop her telling his family or telling everybody who he is, because he's very private. He doesn't want to know. This is a secret part of his life. And she doesn't really understand this, because it's her ambition to be a great musician. And she can't be because A, she's a woman, and B, she's from a noble family, and they don't play in public. The best she gets is to play little private concerts with other young ladies who have similar accomplishments. But she takes herself much more seriously. She composes, and she's actually really talented. And she would love to be famous, and she can't understand why he won't. So there's all these things lead to.
Oh, I love that idea.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love that idea. That idea that he wants what she can't have, or that he has what she can't have that she wants.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Oh, I love that.
They have a lot of clashes over that, but in fact they actually got on really well. But of course they all have adventures and mysteries to solve, and what's happening here. So it's fun. At least I thought it was fun. So I hope readers do too.
Oh, it sounds like it, and I really do. I really do love that idea. That especially in that time period, for a woman to see that he has what she wants and doesn't value it, that thing that she can't have, because of her station and her gender.
But they in the end they realize that it's the fact that they're different personalities. And he does tell his family in the end, but he does. Oh, I shouldn't have told you that, should I? Because you meant to read the book.
You probably guessed that was going to happen. Like, they're going to fall in love, right? Too. We know that part's going to happen.
Oh
too.
No, you've spoiled it again.
Well, we read romance because we don't like Nicholas Sparks for that reason. We want to.
You don't want sad endings, no.
No. You break my heart in the middle, but you've got to give me what you promised me. What you promised me is that there's going to be a happily ever after at the end of this.
Yes, there are no surprise deaths at the end.
No. Nobody gets hit by a logging truck. Nobody dies at sea. No.
No, not allowed.
I did try to write a book once and kill. In fact, twice I've done it. I've tried to kill off my hero, and because I thought a sad ending would be much more moving. But when I'd done it, I hated it, and I went back and changed it all so that he somehow managed to live. I can't do it.
We used to make a Nicholas Sparks list in my family, and forgive me, Mr. Sparks, but my middle son watched one of the movies based on his books with me, and he was like, what did we just watch? Like, this is terrible. It's just, like, I really liked them together. Now he's dead. So, like, You get put on the Nicholas Sparks list if you do naughty things. So
It's all wrong.
it's all wrong. Well, that sounds great, and I really do love that idea, and I love the idea of the series that takes place in one night. It's like I'm curious of how you manage in your head to hold all of the things together so that where all of the players are, at the
It's
same time, because it
difficult.
matters.
I write some of it down so that I do know roughly where most of them are, but occasionally I haven't written it down and I forget and I have to go and look. And I think I'm not sure I would do it this way again, because I think some readers get confused because I have to mention certain things that happened in previous books, and they've maybe forgotten or they haven't read the previous books. So it sounds like just a little tiny bit of story that's been flung in there for no reason, and it's only because my current character has to deal with it in passing. So I've created a few problems for myself doing it this way, but it's been fun as well. I've enjoyed it.
I'd imagine that's one of the places where an editor is very helpful too, because you have another set of eyes that knows
Yeah,
where
that
everything's
spot the
positioned.
big glaring. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, the next book that comes out this week is Shannon Galen's book, and we'll catch up with Shannon. Shannon is in Texas, and Texas is still struggling with power and internet and everything. So we're going to send all of our sympathy and good wishes to the people in Texas who are still struggling with that, and also in the heat, because here in the States it is like trying to cook us. So hopefully they're finding some relief and some coolness. But her book is all about Genevieve, and it's book 3 in Miss Fortune's Favorites. And so I'll make sure to pop the link for that in the comments so you can grab that as well. And then the last book that comes out this week is Peri's book, and it is His Wife the Spy. I love the title for this one. And this is from the Enterprising Women series. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
This involves 3 characters you've met in the previous books.
Oh, cool.
So in book 2, His Spirited Lady, you meet my heroine Amanda's cousin, Jasper, who is set to inherit the title from her father and several other titles, because he's the only boy on that side of the family. And she thinks it's unfair that he gets, 3 titles and 3 houses, and all she wants is 1 house. But be that as it may.
That is unfair. That is very unfair.
So you meet Jasper, and Jasper comes off as kind of a rake. He's always got a drink in his hand. The most scandalous woman at the house party is always on his arm. He's always got something witty to say, and he always acts like he doesn't care beans about what anybody else thinks. And you also meet the heroine for this book. In that book, her name is Annabelle Pierce, and Annabelle's father has gambled away the family fortune. Actually, he hasn't gambled it away. He speculated it away. He wanted more and more, and he's not good at investments. And so they're broke. And then the villain in this series is Sir Reginald Spencer, who we dealt with in book 3, who is kind of this puppet master behind the scenes, manipulating all of these secrets and getting people in Parliament and in the palace to do what he wants. So this book starts when Annabelle, who is faced with either becoming a governess or a mistress, decides that a governess is preferable, and she's hired by Mr. Spencer, Sir Reginald, to take his daughter out into society.
Oh,
This
cool.
is unusual for her because last season she was in society and now she's too poor to go. And he directs her basically that Jasper, the Marquess of Ramsbury, has invited his daughter to his house party and she must take her. But while Annabelle is there, he is using that as an excuse for Annabelle to spy on Jasper and discover his secrets. And he tells her that Jasper is a spy against the crown and that she's doing a huge service. But he wants her to basically snoop, although my editor told me snoop was not a word in the 19th century and I was not allowed to use it. She's basically snooping through his house during his house party. and it's no secret. I mean, it says his wife in the title. They get caught in a compromising position, and they're forced to get married. So she's married to someone who may be a traitor, and he's married to someone who may be trying to get him hung.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And I had to laugh because you were asking, Mary was talking about how to write everything down. And I kept trying to write everything down. I turned the book in, it's in proofreading, and I realized that I have a huge continuity error between book 2 and book 4. And so I'm emailing my editor like, I need to fix something. How do I fix this? I have to fix this before it goes. I don't think anybody would catch it, but I understand that readers are very devoted to series, and I want to make sure that I get it as right as possible.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and fix that continuity error. Oddly enough, about when Jasper inherited his titles. So it's that, and it's their loyalties are shifting, and Jasper isn't a spy for the crown. He's a spy against the crown. He's actually a spy for the crown, and he's trying, by the way, to ruin Sir Reginald Spencer. So he's like, I can marry this woman and find out what my biggest enemy is trying to do, and then I can get around that. And she also discovers that Jasper's rakish exterior is a big
Bruce.
He's actually much more bookish than he looks. He's much more serious at home. He has a whole family of people to take care of. I wanted to write, every time I set out to write a rake, he turns into the biggest cinnamon roll you have ever seen. I've tried twice to write a rake, and my characters just will not go that way. They won't. I try, but yeah. So yeah, that and they end up working together and getting into, there's murder plots and danger and highwaymen and kidnapping and all kinds of stuff.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I love it when the hero and heroine can't tell each other the thing that they need to tell each other, because it goes exactly opposite, and the reader knows the whole time if they could just have that, like if they could just have that.
If she would just say, by the way,
not a traitor.
Didn't do that. And actually, Annabelle has this discussion with herself at some point. She goes, look, you've always listened to your own head. Do you really think your husband is a spy?
Yeah.
Do you really? And so, she has to make up her own mind if she's going to trust him or not. And if she is, so, but she's not sure he's going to forgive her for doing what she's been doing. So there's a little bit of that in there. And then Jasper's always worried that, they're going to finish their mission and she's going to leave. So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Oh,
I mean, she only married me because, she only married me because she had to. She only married me because she had to. So, yeah.
And because he's a cinnamon roll, he would care.
Yeah. I mean, before, when he starts out, he's like, if it doesn't work, we'll figure something out. And then the more he's getting involved with her, the more he's like, I think I figured this out. But I don't know that she's come to the same conclusion. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Awesome. So is this the last book in the series, or are there more after this one?
There are 3 more.
Yay.
So,
I'm seeing Spencer again, I'm assuming.
Spencer's been a theme in the last 2 books, so I'm not going to give too much away, but he gets dealt with fairly handily in this one, and so I've got a double murder.
Oh my goodness!
I've got 1 book with a double murder and 1 book with another murder, and so I need to come up with new murderers. It's time for new bad guys. But
This would,
he was at the top of my mind when I started book 4. I'm like, he needs to be dealt with. So
when you draw on the real life villains,
yes.
the people who have vexed you. That's why when you're friends with an author, you should always be very careful.
Oh yeah. Always be careful.
Oh, well, that sounds like so much fun. I'm glad we have 3 more to look forward to. So
Thank you.
that's awesome. So I thought we could take a couple minutes and talk because because it's not just the poet's critic, it's the poet's stern critic, and his wife, the spy. And I love Enterprising Ladies because that tells you, because I think in book 3 she had a distillery, right?
In
Like they
book
all
2, she had a distillery. In book 3, she was a madam.
Yeah, see, they all had like things. So I love it when you get from the titles, and One Night in Blackhaven obviously is one night in Blackhaven. I love it when you get the you get kind of the flavor of the series and a little hint of what the story is about from the title. So I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about how you come up with titles, whether you do them all at once or whether how it is that you get to where you're going.
Okay.
Book
There
titles?
you go. Book titles and series titles, both.
Okay.
Mary,
I think it varies, actually. I mean, usually I come up with a story and then I think of a title for it. And then sometimes I do the titles of the books first and then come up with a series title. And sometimes I thought the series title doesn't really work but you can only get so far with it, because obviously when you're signing the contracts and once you've got your book covers, you can't really change it without a lot of effort.
We don't like it when you do that. We don't.
But no, I don't blame you.
Locked down.
I've never done it.
We'd like to know what the type is.
Yeah, it's. I think I've changed more in my ideas about titles. I think in the early days, I like to be a bit vaguer about it. But I think, like you're saying, I think people actually prefer a title that tells them more what the story is going to be, rather than just something, here's a romantic tale, that it tells you what the tale is actually going to be about.
Well, I noticed for this series in particular, your titles are really literal. It's like
yes, they are.
Like they're really like, this is the thing that is going to be the thing. So
yeah, it's much more specific. So I might stick with that. I don't know. I think it depends where my head is at the time, and whether or not, obviously, Dragonblade don't like the titles, then I would go and think again. And yeah, but it's an ongoing process, and sometimes you start bouncing ideas off your editor or off Catherine herself, and see where you go.
What about you, Peri?
Enterprising Women came from, my first book in the series, I introduced the lending circle, where women who had money or who had inherited businesses and kind of were successful were then helping other young ladies who didn't have traditional paths find their own business, since they can't really own it. And then the straw men that stand up in front of them and act as the faces and the voices of the business, but who are really employees. And so as I started looking at how to expand that world past one book, it became easy to come up with, okay, well, these are my businesses. And how could I turn those titles on the head, but also how could I put all of these women together in one space, and what's the best word to describe them? And it was enterprising, because they're, so I've got an innkeeper. The first 3 books are an innkeeper, a distiller, and a madam, who, by the way, did not go to the lending circle and ask for money to be a madam. She, her hero, works for the lending circle, and he thinks he can help her start a new business. And she tells him, thank you, but no, I like the business that I have. And then now I've got a spy, a librarian, a shipbuilder.
Oh, cool.
And a matchmaker.
Oh, fun.
The matchmaker is the next one, but they all have something to do then with that lending circle. It's like my heroine in His Wife the Spy is what would now be called a forensic accountant. She's really good with numbers, and she's able to go back through and find connections. She thinks numbers tell the story better. She said numbers never lie. People lie, but numbers never lie. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
she's able to do more in the background with investigating books and finding those connections. So they're all kind of tied to that lending circle to give that connection somehow. So
Yeah, that makes
that
perfect sense. And enterprising sounds like exactly the right word for to describe the link between them.
and I like the his in my title because it is all about, even though the hero plays a huge part in all of the books, I always like it that it's this woman finds this guy. And so it's always his enterprising or whatever the issue is for them is somewhere in the book. So it's like his wife, the spy. The spy is the conflict. So
When you
um,
too, it kind of makes you go, you know,
yeah,
like the romance reader. That's a delicious thing, you know.
that it's like this is going to be our problem. And so yeah, there's always an adjective and a noun that describes the heroine, but it's always that the hero is finding this person that he doesn't think he needs.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I love that. That makes so much sense. So, since we did titles and series titles, let's do names of characters. How do you find the names of characters? Because I'm in my rough draft right now. I have capital letter name, you know, or like capital all in caps name because I can't figure out what like I get the main characters, but all the secondary characters is like I have no idea. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if you know them ahead of time, if you get the names when you get the characters, or how you go about finding, you know, what we're going to call these people.
Sometimes they come to me sort of fully formed, and they seems to have a name, or she seems to have a name, and then other times I look them up. I go through baby names of these sites that have different names on them and come up with ones that I think might have been used at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Some people I think get quite hung up on not using anachronistic names, but if it's a name, then somebody might have thought of it before. So, but it's good if it's if it's believable, I think. So, but yeah, like you, I tend to go through the blah, and I'll think of his name later if it's, and then sometimes I forget I've left blah in there, and I'm so used to reading it, I forget to change it. So, whoops, too many blahs.
Well, and you've written bunches of books too, so I mean, I imagine you have like how you figure out how to not have the same hero over and over and over again, because
yeah,
you get attracted to names and you kind of get.
Sometimes I'm sure I must have heroes and heroines, in fact, with names or similar names. If I notice and I remember, then I go back and then I'll change it. But I don't really like changing. Once I've got used to them having that name, it seems right for them. But
it is hard. It's difficult to change a name.
Yeah, it can be.
Because they turn into real people. Like they turn into real people in your
head.
Yeah.
And the name suits them in your head, if not in anyone else's. So it's, but that is only a name.
You know, and I get once I pick a name, their character kind of starts to form a little bit, and so you get more of the flavor of how they're going to talk. At least to me, I can hear them better in my head. And so, but I'm like Mary, I have my Pinterest board. I have an entire board in Pinterest on names and faces, and it's full of baby names. Just list after list after list of baby names. So I will go there and kind of start digging, or I'll do a search, popular names in Britain in 1845, and go look. And then There was an actress once when they talked about how she named her child. She says they told me when you were thinking about your name to go to the bottom of the stairs and yell it up the stairs and see how it sounded. And so I will come up with a name and I won't yell it, but I'll say it out loud to myself several times. You know, his name is Jasper Warren. His name, like, okay, I like Jasper Warren. Jasper Warren sounds like a pretty good guy. All right, we're there. We got Jasper. And so yeah, it's that way. It's a little bit of everything, but
Mm.
you know, and it also I have to come up with them first because one of my early drafts of a book that has never seen the light of day, when I read back through it, I think I had 4 characters named Bill. And one of them was a cat.
Oh, goodness.
And so I'm like, okay, perhaps I need another filler name other than Bill. And so yeah, I mean, I kind of I at least come up with the major 2 names up front, and then I'll go dig around. And I liked Reginald Spencer just because for some reason Reginald sounds rather slimy. So
Yeah, he sounds like he could do some bad things.
yes, he sounds rather dastardly.
He could either be very, very proper, or he could just be really, really, really devious. You know,
Yes.
Reginald could be devious.
So that's where Reginald came from.
I think somebody needs to write a book called A Cat Named Bill.
I vote for Peri.
It's going to be hard to work it into historical context, but I really feel like we need that. When I asked the question, I didn't think about that idea of doing like it having to be period appropriate too, because it's a whole different level of
Yeah, I'm like Mary said, when I open a book and the character's name is more modern, I'm like, really. So I have to go look and I have to go see, and that's just kind of me. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't want the name to be to draw them out of the story and make it
yes,
less believable. Yeah,
because that is the whole part of painting the picture is keeping everybody in the story.
yeah.
Yes.
I made a Baron's daughter a distiller. I really don't want anybody to get pulled out of the story by her name because the distiller part is,
Yeah.
Yes.
a bit much anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of those important things to realize. Okay, if I'm going to do these things with the stories, I have to give enough. I have to make everything else plausible enough so that people can take their willing suspension of disbelief and they can go, yes, I'll buy this because everything else in the world feels like it could actually be so, and then that makes it much easier to stay in. Cool. Well, that was an interesting little bit that I didn't know we were going to get to from him. So that's very cool. So, ladies, it's been great to talk to you. I really appreciate you taking the time. I wanted to make sure we left a little bit of time at the end so that I could tell everybody about the Dragonblade. We called it in the marketing meetings, we call it the Hot Boys of Summer. So when we talk about it ourselves, we go, it's the Hot Boys of Summer sale. But it's really just the Boys of Summer sale. You can put the hot in your head when you look at the thing. But we're having a sale right now. It runs through the 22nd. And I said a sale, but it's really we're giving away the books for free. So there are more than 20 books that are free. If you go to the Dragonblade webpage, you can find it. There's a big stripe across the center. And if you click that, it will take you to the promo page. It will take you to where you can get all of the books on the page for free. So I'm going to make sure you do that. And who doesn't need more Hot Boys of Summer? If it's going to be like trying to cook us, we got to at least have some of that stuff.
We need something to read under the air conditioner.
Yeah, man.
It's raining here. It's not nice at all. It's all grey and cold.
Oh, come on. It rained here today. I had my office windows open because it was raining, but it hasn't rained in days and days and days. And it really did feel like I was trying to cook us. I would love to come see you, Mary, and sit in
After you swap.
in the chilliness, and you can come here. So like that house thing in the holiday, we just swap it.
Yeah, good idea.
That's exactly right.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. I really appreciate it. It was a treat to talk to you. I'll make sure I put the links to the books that came out this week, including Shannon's book, And also, I'll put the link to the sale in the comments. So if you haven't gotten your books already, you can get them. I'm going to say the same thing I say every week because it's true every week. Dragonblade books are their best deal on pre-order and release. You want to grab them right away when they are less than a cup of bad coffee costs. And if you can't get them then, you can always read in Kindle Unlimited. So thanks again, ladies, for taking the time.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Bye.